Greetings. Welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and he is your co-host, Rashid. And right now we're waiting for 911 Scholars for 911 founder Jim Fetzer to arrive on the scene. He should be here shortly. I didn't even schedule a show for today, but he hit me up and he told me that it's something very important he needed to say. So I scheduled a show to bring him on. But until he gets on, and I'll contact him to let him know we're live so he can hurry up. But um, Rashid, let's go into the news a little bit, man. Let's just talk about a few things and address a few things that's going on today. And also, we like to give a shout out to Refo Mar, who's always supporting the channel. He's always in the comments. He's always doing stuff like that. Thank you, man. We appreciate the support and the dedication. So let's go to the news. Let's just talk about some things. First of all, can you see the degradation and the decline of American society? I was talking to someone the other day, and I don't know if I told you about this, but I was reading an article the other day where this guy played basketball, and I don't know, I think it was like on the city pavement or whatever, on a basketball court against this girl, and this girl beat him, and he killed her because she beat him in a game of basketball. What are your thoughts on that, man?
uh, is what's going on in society. Too many boys and not enough men. You know, this guy was not raised by a man. You got to have certain boundaries in the society that will prevent you from acting uncivilized to different people in the society. And if you have no one being taught how to act like a man, then that's what you got. You got grown males and no men.
Right.
And that's why in this society, I always would call a man, I mean, somebody a boy instead of a man because he doesn't know how to act like a man. He has no boundaries.
Yeah.
He's basically a grown male. And so he's
Yeah.
going to act like his mama, a mama's boy.
But a lot of us, we think when we approach the age of 18 or 19 or 20 or 21 that we're grown men. No. Um just bec- uh, just because you have reached that age, it does not qualify you necessarily to be considered a grown man. A grown man is one who accepts the responsibilities of adulthood. A grown man is a man who accepts the responsibilities that a man should. You can be younger than that and take on the responsibilities of a man and be considered a grown man. And I believe that goes back to one of our earlier shows when we talked about the proper education. Without the proper education, you cannot hope to build the mental capacity or the mental and spiritual makeup of a person who is supposed to be a future leader, which means that you're now putting them in a dire situation where now they revert to savagery because they don't have the the necessary wherewithal to communicate with people, to understand their situation and violence, so they their environment, so they meet things because they innately want to be a man, but they don't know how. They get enraged and angry and they lash out, and it reflects American policy. As she always talks about peace, whenever she gets mad, she lashes out at her at a nation or a leader. She kills them, or she threatens them, or she sanctions them, or she even goes to war with a country. I keep telling people that America's domestic policy is reflected in her international policy, and
They,
we have a lot of grown boys in America, not grown men, grown boys in America because of the state of America's educational system, the state of her political system,
has
her
collapsed.
judicial system. All of that is just in total disarray and total decline. And there is no if your educational system has declined to a level that cannot produce men, if the judicial system is predatory, if the political system is predatory and dismissal, it dismisses the thoughts and the opinion of the people who put them there. Then what you're doing is setting in
You
an
know,
environment of violence.
they used to have a television commercial where they were talking about this. They had a little boy, 5 year old, sitting in the cockpit of a jet fighter, and this is what they were saying: if you don't train people to take over these, uh, 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 take over this technology and stuff, then you're wasting your time, right? You
Right.
can't have no a 5 year old child setting him in the back of a big rig truck and teaching him how to go up and down the street. It's above his head. And this is what the same thing is what we're trying to say about training proper education. I think in the Jewish they have a bar mitzvah. The boy is trained how to step into the role of his father. He's trained from a 1 year since he's born. When he comes into understanding of himself, by the time he's 12 years old, that's what his bar mitzvah is, to teach him how to act. So when he leaves out from that, he's just not running around wild and savage. He got some way to govern his actions to keep him in society, and he become a productive person in the society. But when you got somebody
Right.
that
Right.
just no one where at all, his mom, he walking around with his hair braided like his mom all the time. He want to put on high heel shoes and lipstick and root. Then he's not going into the role of a man. He's become a grown male, just a male that just grew up, and he have no understanding about it. And that's what you have when you in this society. You got too many mama's boys and not enough daddy's men.
Yeah. Well, and also, it's also a reflection of society. They're feminizing the men, and they're making you to think that sound doctrine and sound thinking is irrational and unsound. It used to be that the stuff that is acceptable today was frowned upon when I was growing up, and now
When we
the
was growing up,
society, yeah, now the society has let all this stuff in, and now they look at you as though you are the lunatic, that you are crazy because you're demanding that a man be a man, that a woman be a woman, that there are differences in the sex, like women can do certain things better, men can do certain things better, but if you say that in public, you are a pariah.
you frowned upon. Yeah,
If you talk about, listen, I'm not against a person that's a homosexual. I'm against the act of homosexuality. If you're a homosexual, then why do you have to put that in my face? I'm not putting it in your face that I'm heterosexual. And if I tell you that I don't agree with that lifestyle, then I am looked upon as a bigot, and I'm looked upon as out of touch with reality, when in reality, today's reality is really out of touch with reality, if you understand what I'm
and
saying. So
and what
it's
you
not
just
that you
said
we're
is
not against
what you just said. That
that.
society, those actions cannot produce anything. Two men can't have a child. I don't
Right.
care what they come up with. It's got to be a female. Two females can't
Right.
make a child. Care what they talking about. It is telling you that the society is collapsing. When you push
Right.
that, you're saying that your society is dead because it can't produce itself. Right?
Hmm. Right.
When you put
But it's also
when you
mirrored in
push
this.
this as a,
It's also mirrored in this. As we say that when they push that stuff, the society is dead because it can't reproduce itself. But if we look at the state of affairs right now, and we do a thorough analysis of the state of affairs in America, we see that it is not reproducing sound lawyers, doctors, scientists. Do you see how China has surpassed her in every field of learning? Do you see how other nations are catching up and surpassing her? And as they're seeing, she's in decline. You see, and that
Yes,
is because you cannot produce or maintain a society on false virtues and false reality. It must be you must have a sound base to build a house. You never see construction workers or construction companies go and find a pit of quicksand and lay a base on it and then tell you that, hey, it's okay, it's sand still nonetheless. So let me put the foundation on there. You don't have to worry about sinking in it. And then you build a house up on the base that's built in quicksand. Anyone with sound thinking would say, man, I'm not buying that house from you because I know the base of it is shaky. I know that at any moment, a heavy rain or anything, the whole house can go up under. But today in society, they're doing that with morality, with ethics, with culture, and true, a lot is to blame on music, but the music is a reflection of what they see in the movies. So I mean, and then
that's right.
again, when we look at
A reflection of what you see in the
this,
society.
that's right. And all of that, we have to look at it. If people are complaining about how bad the music is today, and it is just a lot of that is just pure vulgarity. But who owns the radio station? And who owns the movie studios? And who can say yay or nay to the DJs that play the music? And who can say yay or nay
Because if
to
they
the
didn't want to,
premieres of the
if they
movies?
wanted to stop it, they would stop it like that.
No,
I don't care
that's
how
right.
much you
Like
sit up and cuss somebody out and say it's rap music or whatever. If they didn't want it there, you wouldn't hear none of it.
yeah, that's right. That's right. And that is the point I'm making. So a lot of times the media will have you barking at the wrong tree. Like like people get up in arms about the vulgarity in music, which you have the right to. But you also need to get up in arms about the vulgarity in the movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger brought more violence to the screen than a half of these rappers that are talking shoot 'em up, bang, bang, bang. But at the same time, when we look at it, it's deeper than the rappers. It's deeper than Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's the people who hold the purse strings. It's the people who promote the thing. It's the people who allow it to be played on their radios. Because remember, the radio stations are owned, like I think 200 or 300 radio stations are owned by certain individual, certain companies. So if those people on the board of those
What they
companies,
say, six, six companies own all of the media in the Western world.
right,
Six.
right, and so
Used to
they would
be
have you believe,
they had local stations that were owned by different people
yeah,
in different cities.
but
Now,
they bought them all
one
up.
company after Clinton bought made Clinton made that in the 1990s where he took away where you can't own all of the companies. One company can buy up everything, and naturally, if it's one company, if you say something that they don't like, they can bar you. So six companies own all of the media. If you say anything that they don't like, they can sanction. And he's great for sanctions.
So listen, if that is the case, and it is the case, while the masses protest about this culture of in your face sexuality, in your face materialism, in your face vulgarity, the people who are singing it or rapping it or putting it in on acting it in movies, they are just pawns on the chessboard. You have to go to the corporate offices, the people that sit on the board that allow these things to take place. And that also is missed when we complain about this. The corporations benefit from this. So even while you complain and ask for a change and push for a change, the corporations benefit and they have the power to push it or to reject it, and nobody does anything. So is it the rapper? who is trying to make a living, he has some responsibility too. Is it the country singer or the R&B singer? Yes, they have some responsibility. Is it the movie star? Yeah, they have some responsibility. But who holds the purse strings? Who holds the media power? It is the people sitting on the board that makes the decision for those 8 corporations that benefit from these things taking place. And while they're benefiting, the culture declines and starts to become more offensive, more disrespectful, right? This means that the people on the board are greedy enough that they don't care if the society collapses or devolves into a savagery. All they care about is a buck, making a buck. So, what is your comment
It's
on that, Rashid?
you see how Rome fell, but they can't see themselves fall. What did they say? Rome had devolved into such a state. Instead of the senators going to discuss policy, they would send their dogs in there. The dog would do the in the Senate. He barking all over the place. They devolved into the level of savagery, and that's how their society fell. But these modern day senators can't see the same thing that happened to Rome is happening to them. Same exact thing. You know,
and
when
remember,
like you say, when
and
the
remember that,
almighty buck is the law of the land.
yeah, and don't forget that there was a devolution in the educational system. There was a massive rise in greed and corruption, right? And the culture started to decline quickly. And all that they wanted is to see how many dollars that the senators or the leaders could stuff in their pocket. And it led to the coffers of Rome becoming empty. So she could no longer prosecute her wars of conquest. She could no longer fund the empire. So on the periphery of the empire, her little fiefdoms, they started collapsing. And then it started a domino effect. So all of them started collapsing closer and closer and closer until it hit her. And when it hit home, then they wanted to try to make a change, but then it was too late because it had spiraled too far out of control.
It,
Go
it,
ahead.
it, it, I can't see, but isn't that something like having the Americans' money falling down, collapsing? She can't fund her wars. All of the money,
Yeah.
the debt and stuff that she done built up, and trillions of dollars. Now, once again, as we go back, money is nothing but a modem exchange between two different people. I'll give you some money, and we're negotiating a barter price between what we're buying and what we're selling. Now, if you have a whole lot of money up there and it's not worth anything, then your society has to collapse because nobody gonna trade with you anymore. And just like Rome
Right.
fell, is the same thing that's happening to them. Same exact
Mm-hmm.
thing. Too many dollars
Yeah.
out there, and nobody ready to collect them, and that's what they can't see. Your money is
Yeah.
nothing if it can't buy any natural resources, and this is what's taking place now. Everybody is rejecting her.
Mm-hmm.
They stole
Yeah.
$300 billion from Russia, and the rest of them say, "Well, you can do the same thing to me." So I don't want to
Right.
put my money, my in your money, your monetary system. And so they start taking it back, and the empire starts collapsing, collapsing, collapsing. And one day it will burst, and it won't be worth anything.
Mm-hmm. So again, for everybody that's listening, we did not have a show plan for today. I got an email from Jim Fetzer. He said he had some stuff he wanted to talk about, and so I scheduled a show for today. So this was like a last minute schedule. I mean, I really like scheduled it around 4 o'clock because I was really busy. So he told me he'll be here anytime. So we're waiting for him. This wasn't even supposed to be a scheduled show, but tomorrow you have to look. We have Kevin Barrett, part two of the Kevin Barrett interview that comes out tomorrow on YouTube. So I want all of you all to check that out, okay? And if you haven't seen part one, go to the channel and check out part one also, so that you'll be informed about the part two of the interview. So again, and another thing, I'm telling you, I'm not gonna wait all you know all day. I have a few other things that I have to get done before things start closing and stuff, because I don't know where it's how it is to you, but it's like 5:50 our time. So we're gonna chop up some news. So we're waiting on him, but we need to chop up some news so that the people can get some information about what's going on around the world and what's going on here within America. So we kill two birds with one stone. Now, to a point that you were saying about people rejecting the dollar, all one has to do is look what happened in the last few days and see more and more people are transacting currency trade deals. They're doing it outside of dollar control. India just even tried to say that they were going to try to hash out something where they can barter something for Russian grain. They're already paying for Russian oil in rubles and in rupees and in yuan. Now they're saying that they want to do a grain deal with a combination of that plus something else. We see that Egypt is now set to start trading in yuan and rubles. We see that Iran is starting to trade in the real and rubles and the yuan. We see more and more nations are trying to offset dollar hegemony, because dollar hegemony means interference in your international, I mean, in your sovereign affairs. It means that you lie at the foot of the empire, because anytime you tee them off, they can cause inflation. Look what they did to Turkey. Again, I go back to Turkey because this is a prime example. As Turkish or Turkey 8 uh, started trade deals with Russia, started trade deals with China, openly announced that it would be an observer to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. America sent emissaries over there and warned Turkey not to do it. Turkey did it anyhow under Erdogan. America entered into a currency war with Turkey, crashing the lira, spiking inflation, and trying to oust him. When that didn't work because of Russia and Chinese aid, and Russia said, you know what? I'm going to accept the Russian Mir card. America sent more ambassadors over, financial ambassadors, saying, if you do this, we're going to hit you as hard as we can. We're going to sanction your banking system. We're going to sanction your currency. We're going to sanction everything. Now, I want to point this out to you. We are supposed to be on an equal footing. Listen to me good. I'm speaking in terms of Turkey and the United States. These are supposedly NATO allies, and they are supposed to be a part of a treaty that if one is attacked, all other members will come to his aid. Well, Turkey was being attacked financially. No one offered Turkey any financial aid except Russia and China and Iran.
But what
What
they
I'm saying to
most
you is
people
that
don't
America
understand.
cannot be trusted, because just like she sanctions her enemies, she sanctions her allies whenever they step out of place. And that's why this is forcing uh, other nations, including her allies, to work on plans outside of the SWIFT system, outside of the euro, outside of the pound, outside of the dollar-denominated financial world order. Go ahead.
What most
Excuse
people
me.
don't understand, all wars are not physical.
That's
A
right.
blockade, an economic war, is just as devastating as using carnal weapons, blowing up your houses and cities and stuff. It devastated Turkey. It took their money was trading at the lowest level that it ever was, all because she pulled an economic war on Turkey. She didn't been had an economic war on Iran for years. Now she's starting it with Russia, right? Over the last few years, she had it with Russia, and
Mm-hmm.
China is smart enough to see if you can do it to Iran, Turkey, and Russia, you can do it to me. So it behooves these
Yeah.
countries to get out of her money,
Right.
shun her, get out of her. Once without her money, you holding your resources in her dollar bills and her monetary system, then that means that she don't have the resources to fund all of them 800 to 5,000 bases around the world. She
Mm-hmm.
is she
Yeah.
must be restricted back to her borders. This is what the brother was talking about.
And so as we talk on this, it brought to mind an article I was looking at on RT.com, and it was about Russia and about Vladimir Putin. And this is what the article is titled: Russian president calls for alternative to SWIFT. You know, SWIFT is the international means of exchange for most banks, most businesses, of everything. And even though it's run out of Europe, America runs that. And so this is what, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Excuse me. It says, new financial platforms should be outside any national jurisdiction, Putin says. President Vladimir Putin has called for new independent financial platforms for international settlements, stressing that the emergence of such networks is certain but will require effort from multiple countries. Moscow has been promoting its own domestic payment system as a reliable alternative to SWIFT, since many of the country's banks were disconnected from the Western financial network earlier this year. Russia believes that the process of establishing new international financial platforms is inevitable. Such platforms should be outside national jurisdiction. Why is this one of the main points? It's because right now, even though SWIFT says that it is a European organization and that it is global and that it is non-biased and neutral, we see that they disconnected Iran from it, they disconnected Syria from it, and they have disconnected what most of Russia from the SWIFT system. That is a way of financial terrorism, a financial war, and nations are getting tired of it. Just like with the United Nations being within America's border. And we have Jim Fetzer. He's in the booth. We'll bring him in just a second. But just like with the United Nations being within the United States borders, whenever you anger her, she can deny you passports, even though she is not supposed to if you are part of the national delegation. She does that. She denied. He was knocked out of the booth. Oh man, maybe he'll try to get right back in. Um, she denied Russia certain things, or she'll hold them to the last minute to keep you from being able to be a part of certain international meetings. But she is that organization in America agreed that to host that organization, she would never infringe upon the rights or that was laid out by the UN charter. Yet she ignores it. And why? And that is why most people are looking for
When,
alternative organizations and alternative ways out. Go ahead.
when has
Go ahead.
the American government ever lived up to any of her treaties or obligations? Just go ask the American Indian about living up to their arrangements. Thousands of treaties
Yeah.
and broke every last one of them.
Yeah. We have Jim's in the booth. We're gonna bring him in right now because we don't know how StreamYard or YouTube will do. You see how they disconnected us the other day. You see how they mute microphones and everything, and they might kick him off again because they deleted the whole show, even though we had it bagged up that we had with Jim Fetzer. They removed it and suspended us. How long did we get suspended for? 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that, for the show we did with him. But so if there's no more live shows next week, we've been suspended. Okay, so we want everybody to know. So let me bring in. Let's see. Let's see. We'll add Jim to the
There we
screen.
are. There we are. How are you, Rashid,
How's it
my
going,
friend?
Jim?
Good, good, good.
I am doing great.
Excellent, excellent.
Tell the people about yourself. Tell the people about yourself a little bit, and then we'll go right into everything.
Well, I've been called the conspiracy guy. I've I have an academic background, and I'm undoubtedly the most prominent professional scholar to ever address all these issues. I began with JFK, founded Scholars for 9/11 Truth. I co-authored a book on the assassination of Senator Paul Wellstone. I put together 13 experts on Sandy Hook, and after Amazon banned it, less than a month after it had gone on sale, I released it for free as a PDF. I co-founded moonrockbooks.com, where now I have 6 books that have been banned by Amazon.com, which I tell you, Rashid, is the indoor record. So if you get censored, you got a pretty good idea of the reason why.
Yeah. So Jim, what
Wait,
what do you
wait a
make
minute.
of this
The way,
situation?
hold on a second. The way they going after the
I
way
can
they
hear you.
going after Alex Jones, you better watch it.
Yeah.
Well,
So
see,
Can you
check.
hear me?
that was
I
very
said the way they
bizarre.
going after Alex Jones.
We heard you. We heard you.
Yeah, I
We heard you.
I sought to intervene in all 3 of those Alex Jones cases, and also in the Remington, to point out there's never been a judicial determination that anybody died at Sandy Hook. No finding that anybody died at Sandy Hook. It's all been based on stipulation or agreement. In Alex's case, by default, he was found to be liable, not by proving he'd said anything false, but because allegedly he hadn't provided some discovery documents. But that's been true in every one of these cases. So I wanted to intervene, and it wasn't surprising the Sandy Hook parents didn't want me in there. They're all fake, and I'm in a position to prove it. But that Alex Jones team didn't want me either. That came as a surprise. Why would Alex not want me? I even offered to come in as an expert witness to Norm Pattis, who is Alex's main attorney, and he didn't raise his least digit to get me in there before the court. So while they've been smashing Alex, I've been at the Supreme Court of the United States, and they have reported massively on Alex, but they haven't said a peep about my Supreme Court case, where I've just returned from requesting a reconsideration by the Supreme Court for its having denied my petition. That is the delay I had in linking up with Rashid today. I just got back.
So with all of this, what do you think is going on with this government? And I mean, it seems like the leadership has gone insane because they're trying to wage war against China, Russia, Iran, and everybody else. And at home, they're trying to wage war through censorship and through labeling people as domestic terrorists. What is going on?
Well, Rashid, if Joe Biden isn't running the government, it's the powers behind the scene. It includes Obama, it includes Eric Holder. If you think of George Soros, the billionaire whose wet dream has been to destroy America as the acting president of the United States, you got it right. All the migration, millions migrating, that's to destroy our culture, taking down the statues, forget our history, try to promote or aggravate racial relations, cut off energy independence, promote fake news. Every single action that Biden has taken since he came into office has been destructive of the United States, its economy, and its people.
Mm. So, and I know this is a little bit further from what we were just talking about. What do you think about the situation that is going on in Ukraine, and why is it so much attention paid to Ukraine, and why does America um, intervene over there and is almost ready to put troops in there to go head to head with Russia?
Ukraine is both the poorest and the most corrupt nation in Europe. Biden had a whole lot of relations with Ukraine. His son Hunter is on the Burisma board of directors. He knows nothing about gas or energy. It's all influence peddling. the Khazarians who occupy present-day Israel were born in or their parents or their grandparents were born in Ukraine. They want to return to Ukraine to make it a new Israel. There are a lot of resources in Ukraine. In 2014, the U.S. engineered a coup to take out the Russia-friendly president of Ukraine and replace him with a Western puppet. And the president, this Zelensky, is the successor to the puppet, and he is as corrupt as they come. Since the coup in 2014, which was engineered by the United States, Victoria Nuland, who was then in the Department of State, she got the boot when Trump came in, but she's back now under Biden. Engineered the coup using $5 billion taxpayer dollars. You and I paid for this, Rashid, to depose the Russia-friendly government and put in a stooge. Ever since 2014, they've been shelling the Donbass region. This is the eastern part of Ukraine, which is populated with ethnic Russians and those who are favorable to Russia. They killed thousands of people. They have these biolabs there where they're developing all these bizarre biological terror weapons. They were working on one specifically designed to kill Russians. They were studying Russian DA designing. This is one of the reasons Putin had to intervene. And various NATO forces were planning a coup to take over the ports in Ukraine for NATO military exercises, which led Putin to intervene when he did, but with great effect. Putin is actually fighting the good fight on behalf of the whole world, even though he's being lambasted in the Western press, which is controlled by the Israelis. We have a completely dominated U.S. press. And, of course, the Rothschild, the banking empire behind the Great Reset, which already owns 80% of the world's wealth, wants to make it 100, Rashid. They want it all. And they're investing trillions in taking over the rest, knowing they're going to get it all back because it's all over. Everything is going to be theirs. But remember, they not only own the AP and Reuters, which is our virtually exclusive source for foreign news for the American media, but I have a panel of 15 executives from CNN, every one of whom is a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen. I have another panel, 100 executives from NBC. Every one is a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen. I have another 100 executives from the New York Times. Every one is a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen. They run our media. They run Hollywood. They control them. They even have a pledge. When new members of Congress come in, they're asked to sign a pledge to put the interests of Israel even ahead those of the United States. And those who refuse find themselves, their financing is cut off. They have a new well-financed opponent, or maybe there's been a census. They redraw the district. They no longer have the seat. Cynthia McKinney, a very good person, revealed this on Iranian television in 2011. She thought everybody knew, but nobody knew. And she was able to survive what they threw at her to serve 4 or 6 terms in the House. But Dennis Kucinich, who I thought was the smartest guy in Congress at the time, had his district redrawn, and he was out.
Yeah. I tell you, she was on an earlier platform of mine. I think it was 2010 or 11, and she told me the exact same thing. And she said that she did not realize that most people didn't even know this, that when you become a congressman, you have to say a pledge to Israel.
That's right.
And it blew
That's
her mind.
right. That's right. And the American people don't know. The American people do not know.
And she refused to do it. And so
few refuse to do it. I had a good friend with whom I do JFK shows, Gary King by name. And years ago, he asked me, did I know how many members of the current Congress had refused to sign the pledge? And I admitted I did not know. He held up one finger on one hand. One member of the then Congress had refused to sign the pledge. No wonder we're in such dire straits. And Israel, frankly, wants the U.S. and Russia to go to war. They figure they're going to pick up the pieces.
Rashid is there.
That's a war that nobody can win. I said that's a war
Well,
that
now I
nobody
think
can
that's the
win. So
truth.
why do it?
I think that's the truth. And Russia's military equipment is far superior to ours. So if we get into a war with Russia, we're going to wind up worse off. But they're going to be, good. Studies have shown even a limited nuclear war eventually kills 1/3 of the world's population. So we're talking about billions of people minimally. But a whole lot of them are going to be Americans if we actually provoke this war. See, Biden wants the war so he can have an excuse for not having the midterm elections because he knows they're going to get wiped. The Democrat Party is going to be demolished. So he's got to find a way, an excuse not to have it.
So you
Do you
believe
do,
that is why he is putting
do you
troops
actually think
on the border?
Biden is running anything?
No, it's being run behind the scenes, and Barack Obama is among them, and Valerie Jarrett and his other aides. Obama said two things that are significant here. One, in the past, he said, never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F things up. And he also said, when he was asked would he like to serve again in a third term, and he said, well, no, not officially, but if someone else were in office and he were running things behind the scene, he'd like that. Well, that's what he's got. That's what's going on right now.
Mm. So again, I wanted to ask you before Rashid asked this question. So do you believe that the Biden administration is purposely trying to provoke this war with Russia by deploying the 101st Airborne Division to surrounding areas, also up in the tension
Romania.
between Russia and NATO?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it. In fact, they're just urgent. It's an urgent order to upgrade the gravity bombs dropped from aircraft in Europe, which is obviously provocative. I mean, the Russians got to say, well, why are they wanting to upgrade their atomic bombs now? And it's obvious. But the fact is, those weapons are antiquated. Dropping bombs from aircraft, those aircraft are all going to be shot out of the air. It's missiles. You use missiles today. These old bombs dropped from planes are antiquated. They no longer are going to make a difference.
So, Rashid, I know you. I don't want to hog. That's why I'm trying to ask a question, then let you in. Rashid, do you have anything that you want to add on this situation with Ukraine and stuff? Because I don't want to just hog the whole show. you know.
Yeah. Well,
My
it's
wife.
obvious that.
Sorry, I'm sorry, you guys saw me do like this. My wife is leaving out, and I was. She's going to work.
Yeah.
So I was blowing her.
We didn't think you were. We didn't think you were blowing kisses to us.
Blowing at us.
Very nice.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Rashid.
Now with this Ukraine thing, it's like we said before. It shows that these people they're not stable. There's no winning of a nuclear war, and as you said before, there's no limited. Once somebody starts this, they're gonna go all in. There's no such thing as having a limited nuclear war or just 2 or 3% of it. Once you start pushing buttons, all the buttons are gonna be pushed.
Joaquin Hagopian is a brilliant guy. He's got a 5-volume expose on pedophilia. I know a New York detective, Gold Shield, who told me, based on his experience, that 70% of American political elite are engaged in pedophilia. That's all disgusting. That's just background about his credentials. He's publishing a lot about Ukraine on my blog at jameshfetzer.org, jameshfetzer.org. And in more recent, he's reported how they're already using tactical nukes. The Ukrainians are already using tactical nukes in Ukraine. And it looks as though they want to create a situation where the contamination will blow into a NATO nation, and then they can claim that that was an attack on NATO. And NATO then will invoke Article 5 of their charter for a collective response. But I'm telling you, Russia can take them all out in the U.S. too. I mean, look, this is really stupid because Russia is prepared to fight a war it does not want to fight. The U.S. and NATO want to fight a war they're not prepared to fight. It's going to be very lopsided.
Oh, so with that, again, it seems like the battlefield is being shaped for a NATO and U.S. feet in Europe, because
Yeah.
remember, Jens Stolberg, he let the cat out the bag when he said a Ukrainian defeat would mean a NATO defeat, and that he put all the cards on the table then, and Russia openly knew that NATO was wanted war with them.
And of course, NATO isn't even a NATO nation. I mean, Ukraine isn't even a NATO nation. In fact, it was its expressed desire to become a NATO nation that led in part to the intervention by Vladimir Putin, the special military operation, because Russia cannot allow NATO missiles, nuclear missiles on its border with Ukraine. Ukraine, by the way, has been a part of Russia for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's known as a breadbasket of Russia. So this whole thing is totally artificial. Ukraine properly belongs to Russia anyhow. And it's just disgraceful how it's misrepresented in the American media.
And that's why in a recent interview, when Vladimir Putin gave a 5-hour interview and they asked him about Ukraine, and he said it was similar to a civil war.
Yeah.
Because he
Yeah.
views it as his brethren.
The trouble is that
but why?
The Ukrainians who are in charge, by the way, they're almost all of them are Jewish by coincidence. And they are brutal. They're neo-Nazis. They have this Azov battalion that openly wears a swastika and performs acts of terrorism. I mean, actually, Hitler's troops were well behaved compared to the Azov battalion in Ukraine, if the truth be told.
Well, why doesn't the media, the Western media, openly say that they are Nazis over there? Because remember, there were reports that George Bush Sr.'s father helped fund Hitler's rise in the Third Reich, and now we're seeing that now the U.S. government is helping the Nazis again.
Yeah, well, these are particularly bad people. I mean, I think the Nazis look pretty good in comparison to these Ukrainians, because that sounds funny. But yeah. This is all very, very bad. Very, very bad.
Rashid, before I'll let you come in just a second, but I wanted to stay with this for a second. I wanted to, why do you leave? And now the pages are being blocked.
And remember, the media is controlled by Israel. Remember, the media is controlled by Israel and therefore by the Rothschilds. So, I mean, we don't get an unbiased reporting. It's all propaganda. This is why Trump did such a good thing when he was calling out the fake news. He was alerting the American people to the fact they're being played every day, 24/7. He's right.
Well, again, it's not changing the policy of America. It's America. She doesn't slow down unless she gets smacked in the face. And she only doubles down on failed policies. And we see that now. She's not only is she provoking China, she's provoking Iran, she's provoking Russia. And she cannot hope to beat them militarily. But she's doing it.
It's no contest between America and Russia. It's no contest. The wargaming people who know what's going on. Russia just smacks the U.S. down. They have this monster submarine that releases little mini subs that are nuclear equipped that can create, by exploding underwater, tsunamis, huge waves that would, for example, off the East Coast, could take out everything from Boston all the way down to Washington, D.C., meaning New York City would be inundated, and it's all radioactive. So it makes a whole area uninhabitable for the next 250 years. They could set off an EMP over the United States and take out our electrical grid, and everything comes to a halt. And that's another stupid thing Biden's doing, promoting electric cars. They have limited range, are incredibly expensive. They will burst into flames if they interact with salt water. They have a tendency even to explode. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they have limited mileage. You have to stop and recharge for hours. It takes you 5 minutes to fill up your gas tank. Well, it'll take 2 hours. In Wyoming, Going from Cheyenne to Casper should take 3 hours. On an electric car, it took 15 hours to
Rashid,
get
what do
from
you have to say?
Casper to Cheyenne.
but yet they will not stop, right?
Oh, no, they're being very...
Everything you said is true, but they still won't stop.
Right. It's another way of destroying America, destroy our energy. We have abundant energy. Trump made us energy independent. The first thing Biden did when he came in was to cancel the XL pipeline and revoke permits to drill on federal land. So he reversed it. And now just artificially deflate the price of gas. He's drawing on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for political purposes. This is all wrong. And we're about to run out of diesel. And when we run out of diesel, the whole country comes to an end because the trucks do all the transporting. 80 to 90% of the goods in the United States are transported by trucks. Those trucks run on diesel, and we have about 20 days of diesel left. I mean, it's going to be catastrophic.
Rashid,
but yet,
I'm not. Go
after
ahead.
all of
Ask
that, he still want to ban Russia. They're trying to ban Russian oil all around the world.
It's colossally stupid. It's colossally stupid unless you want to destroy America, in which case it's a real simple solution, and that's what they're out. They're out. This Biden administration is all in. They're using this notion of equity to make everything equal. They're taking away private property rights. In Illinois, as of January 1st, if a trespasser occupies your home, you cannot call the police to remove them. In other words, you're on your own. Basically, it's abandoning private property, which means what's going on with the Democrats is implementing a socialist communist agenda. I used to think that was nonsense. I tell you, it's absolutely true today.
You know, on something that you just said, I was just reading an article about 2 days ago that this couple bought a home, and when they went to go to the home that they had just closed on, it was some grifters living in the home, and they refused to leave, and the police came there, and the police did not remove them, and now it's in the courts now to try to get the home that they bought, but the people won't leave the home.
Yeah, I mean, this is it, and they basically decriminalized shoplifting, so you can shoplift up to $1,000 in California with impunity. So they're bringing up whole caravans, and they're going in and looting really high-end stores. I mean, the Democrat attitude toward law and order is ridiculous. The idea of defunding the police was absurd, and now we're paying for it. Everyone. And black communities of all communities know how important law enforcement is. We're going to have a point where New York is a ghost town, except it's going to be run by gangs, but they're not going to be able to run the subway. They're not going to be able to run the bus lines. They're not even going to take care of garbage
They made
collection.
a movie of that.
They get?
They made a movie of that, Escape from New York. Exactly what you were talking about.
And Escape from California. And Escape from California. Both of them.
That's the future. That's the future. That is what is coming.
Well,
so people who have the money and resources are getting the hell out of New York.
I'm out here in California, and they had a couple of news shows about all of the trains that were being loaded. It comes from China, loaded on here, and then they send them back east. And as soon as they go down in a certain spot, they come in and steal everything on the trains. They had all kind of boxes and stuff on the ground. And the guy said that when he goes in, that the police or the sheriff department comes and arrests them. By the next day, they out of jail back to do it again.
Yeah, that's the Democrats' policy.
Not nailed down.
No bail, just turn them around, get them back out on the street. They think that's a good thing. I mean, how stupid is that?
Well, that shows predation and the moral decline and collapse of America. And
well, again, but look. Let's just over 2 years ago, we were actually doing pretty well. The economy was strong. The border was secure. We had The lowest earning wage earners were seeing their wages rise at the highest rates. We had energy independence. Why is that? Because Donald Trump was president. Donald Trump believes in America. Joe Biden, whoever he is, it's pretty obvious whoever he is isn't running the shop, doesn't believe in America. He wants to destroy America. He's doing the bidding of George Soros. I'm telling you, that's what's going on. Bad.
So what do you think? We see the decline in morality, ethics, eh, um, uh, and education in America, and we know that that's a recipe for an explosion within her own borders. And at the same time, we see irrational, unstable leaders and leadership, and it seems to me that they're pushing the empire to the extreme. You know how you have a balloon and you blow up the balloon, and it seems like the empire is taking air and it keeps expanding till it and now it has reached this it's point where
It's
it can't
going to pop.
expand anymore. Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you think war is coming?
You mean Civil War?
I'm talking
I,
about both
I, I,
civil war
I,
and war.
probably both. Probably both. Because look what happens when the diesel runs out and nobody can gain food because everything has been locked down. People are going to go crazy. Law enforcement is going to get the hell out of the way. There's going to be looting. There's going to be rioting. They're going to be,
Mhm.
gangs are going to assert their influence. It's going to be one hell of a mess. And that's going to spill over into Washington. A lot of people know who brought this about, and their names are Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. Those are going to be very high on the list of those who are going to be held accountable. And by God, once the American people figure it out, they will be unrelenting.
Do you think it would look like a Mad Max
It is the
scenario?
same thing.
Rashid?
It's the same thing like what's happening in Europe,
Yes.
shunning all Russian gas, and Russian gas is what pushed the turbines to keep the electricity going in Europe.
That's right.
So if you're gonna get rid of Russian gas, you're gonna get rid of your society. It makes no.
That's
Once again,
that's
it just don't
you're
make any
speaking
sense.
very clearly. And see, the Rothschild control so many of the leaders of these nations. They're willing to turn on the people because Rothschilds are paying them big bucks. They're all on the Rothschild payroll. It's just disgusting. And that's true virtually across the board. I think any European leader who would shut off Russian gas, which is cheap gas, and punish the German people out of Russian having a worthy reason for intruding into Ukraine is derelict in their duty. They are committing a form of national suicide by balking, hesitating to pay for gas in rubles. That's all Russia asked for: pay for gas in rubles. And today, the ruble is the strongest currency in the world, and the BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperative are all growing independent. The United States will never regain its economic standing among the world. It's gone forever.
Now I'll ask you, I'm going back to something and then I'll address what you just said. I want to ask you the question again. Do you think that it will look like Mad Max, the movie?
I think it'll come to that pretty much. Yeah, that was a terrifying futuristic scenario, but I think we're approaching. And in fact, in Australia, it's going to happen sooner because they've had more of these lockdowns and confiscation of guns and everything. So, we're going to get Max right where it was originally filmed. I think pretty damn near in the future. Pretty damn
Well,
soon.
now, well, back to something you were talking about, and then I'll let Rashid. I muted his mic for a second because whenever I talked and he talked, there was a few seconds delay, and it would seem as though I was talking over him or he was talking over me, and I didn't want to be disrespectful to him or anything like that. So
Sure.
and I'm going to ask you this, and then I'll unmute him and let him ask you something because it's only right. You were just talking about the situation in Europe and how they're cutting off their nose in spite of their face,
Yes.
and how they're. What do you think the situation will look like over there? Also, because as Rashid pointed out, they are so reliant on Russian oil, Russian gas, and even the Western world is heavily reliant on Russian fertilizer, Russian
Yeah.
different kinds of
It's
gases,
all it's
and
all
Russian minerals.
it's all been cut off deliberately. See, this is Rothschild. They're blowing up all the food processing plants. We've had 100 poultry meat plants destroyed. We've had all the key fertilizer. Even this latest hurricane, which was weather manipulated in Florida, took out a major source of fertilizer. I mean, it's catastrophic, and the consequence, it's all by design. That hurricane was manipulated. That was weather warfare. You go all the way back to Lyndon Johnson saying, well, he who controls the weather controls the world. He was already on it, and that was over 50 years ago.
Now Rashid in because I know he has something to say, and I was just trying to, and I took my headphones off for a minute to see if the echoes will still be there. So Rashid, go ahead.
What's going on? What people in Europe don't understand, without natural gas, there is no Mercedes-Benz. There's no BMW. There's no Volvo. There's no Porsche. There's no Volvo. There's none of these companies that everybody rely on. It's all gone. Yeah. And they can't see that. What they're doing is they're committing suicide.
Well, there are
and they don't have enough sense to see that their leadership
protests in Europe. There are massive protests in Europe that are not being reported in the United States. They're very unhappy with their leaders. And because they have a history of political activism in those nations like France, the French Revolution, I think things are going to happen pretty fast in some of those nations. It's going to be very severe. We may wind up seeing heads on pikes. It's going to happen.
Do you think that the situation
will
mirror that over here in America? Because think about, she's been the #1 economy in the world. She's been the envy of the whole world, and with changing lifestyle, when the people start thinking about the freedoms and the things that they used to enjoy, and all of the things that they used to have, don't you think that that would make anger rise up?
Well, Americans are very slow to pick up on what's going on right before their face. I mean, when Bill Clinton promoted NAFTA, Ross Perot warned us. He said that giant sucking sound you hear is all those jobs going south. That was the beginning of the end for the United States. We can thank Bill Clinton for that. It was also Bill Clinton who began promoting this expansion of NATO into the Eastern European nations that we'd sworn we would never do. Then how much of that is from Bill and how much is from Hillary? Hillary is a monster. The idea of her, being in power in the United States is so repulsive to anyone who knows anything about Hillary. To know her is to despise her.
Didn't Bill help remove the Glass-Steagall Act?
Yeah, I think
he
did. I believe he did.
Yeah, yes. He did do it. Yeah.
I thought so.
He's really been a bang-up president for America, hasn't
he? And I gotta say, I voted for the guy twice. I voted for Brock twice. But when Donald Trump came down the elevator, man, he was a breath of fresh air. And the fact that Hillary is such a monster, I mean, that was a no-brainer. Easy to pick Trump over Hillary. And in fact, they've been so scared. Say again.
I said, what about her roots over there, close to Russia? She's connected to mob ties over in Europe and stuff.
Oh, there's a whole Clinton crime family. There's a Clinton death list. There's Clinton child trafficking, and they're into everything, and all of it is gross and corrupt, even perverted. Bill probably flew more on the Lolita Express than anyone else, around 26 times. He liked having sex with those young girls when they were tied up on Orgy Island. He liked that.
Yeah, Rashid.
What can you say something after that?
know.
What can you say
I
after
know.
that?
That's why I said. So,
And you
so
know,
what,
these
what do you
Biden,
think
these.
the political environment?
Go ahead.
We're having a delay. I don't. StreamYard is messing with the show. I'm looking at it from 3 different computers, and one computer, I'm looking at it. It's showing me that we have excellent connection, excellent internet, excellent everything. It's frozen on one, the YouTube dashboard, and then in the StreamYard dashboard, there's a lag behind. So when we talk, it seems like we're talking over each other, but in reality, I believe this is done outside of us, So, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
ask
Well,
you.
you know, as you knew, having me on was going to run a risk of massive censorship, and I think you can pretty much guarantee it's going to happen.
So what is the political climate going to be like we're going towards 2025? We already know that the economy is in a downward spiral, and we have economists are now being forced to admit that 2023 will be worse than 2022. With that said, and they said pushing towards 2025, with the
I'm
debt
not worried.
crisis and the political crisis what is going
I'm
on?
not worried about 2025. I'm worried about 8 November. I mean, you know, we may not even make it to 8 November. Sad to say.
It's become that bad.
Oh, yeah. U.S. is on a downhill, but I'm talking about a nuke war, you know, breaking out because they want it. The Democrats want it. They know if the midterm takes place, if they can't fix the vote, that they are done for. It's going to be the demolition of the Democratic Party. It's going to be non-survivable after the 8th of November.
So do you think we're living in the fall of America?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Decline and fall of America. Yes. And it actually can be dated from 22 November 1963. Once we start killing off our best and our brightest, the true Americans who cared and wanted to govern on behalf of all the people, that was the end of the line. Because then all the plutocrats, all the rich, all the presidents knew they were serving at the end of the barrel of a rifle. I mean, that was the beginning of the end. So we had a good trajectory. It's been downhill ever since. And Trump was a blip in the road because Trump was actually bringing us back up. But that's why the deep state and the bureaucrats and the political elite couldn't stand Trump because he didn't play their game. He actually was making decisions that benefited the American people, and they couldn't stand for that.
As I always
Rashid,
say, he was not a politician.
Right.
He was not a politician. He was not brought into the political system and do the game like when Gore in 2000, when Bush, he submitted and said, okay, yeah, he won. But this is not Trump. He was not made. He was not raised up in the political system of this country.
Right.
He's come from
He's
something
got brains.
different. And
He's got brains and he's got guts and he cares about America. That's why he's a threat to all those established interests, because he wants to take something away from them they don't deserve and give it to the public, to the people.
do you think that we're living in the irreversible decline, economic decline of America, the irreversible political decline of America, and the irreversible military decline of America?
Pretty much. If we could get the Republicans back in power, if we get have something resembling an honest vote and we can get the Republicans back in Congress, it might be salvageable, but they're going to go out of their way to destroy every opportunity. All the polls show that the Republicans are going to prevail everywhere. You can go through state after state, look at every one of the contests. All this pro-abortion stuff has antagonized Catholics. I mean, and all this immigration has antagonized Latinos. I mean, they're giving people things they didn't earn, they didn't benefit from because Trump clamped down the border. The lowest earning wage earners We're seeing their wages rise at the highest rate. It was good for America. It was good for you. It was good for me. They couldn't have it. They couldn't have it. They had to get rid of Trump.
So this thing is
They
about to
stole
blow.
the election. They stole the election in 2020. I mean, it was so massive that the ordinary American mind just boggles at the very idea it was stolen on the scale on which it was stolen. But those are the facts of the matter.
You know, why do you think they censor like your views you just had? You remember we did a show, it was you and I, we did a show and you were talking about that and they kicked me off of YouTube for a month and I contacted you and I said, hey, they just took the show down, wiped away the video and we were off the show and I was asking you and you were giving me your opinion on these things. Why do you think you feel when it comes to differing?
Like in A Few Good Men, where Jack Nicklaus is playing the colonel. He says, you can't handle the truth. There's too much truth. I mean, that's what I do. I'm kind of like a truth machine. I go for the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So you get me on, you're getting a flood of truths that they want to suppress. So they're going to go after you. I guarantee you.
Rashid?
They pulling out all of this. They are pushing war with China. They're pushing war with Iran. They're stirring up trouble in Iran. They're stirring up trouble with Russia. They're stirring up trouble with all of these. What is the end result of what is their plan going to be for the future? If like you said, that Russia got the best military on the planet and they can't win, then why go to war with them?
Well, the Rothschilds think a war is going to, take out a lot of people. They want to depopulate the planet. Want to get us down to 500 million when we got 8 billion. That's 8.5 billion. You got to get rid of one way or another. They want to run the world. The Rothschilds. Muammar Gaddafi made the astute observation. He said, if you want to end terrorism around the world, just lob a cruise missile into the city of London. That's where the Rothschilds have their banking empire headquarters. He got it right. He got it right. So he wound up with a bayonet up his ass.
Yeah. And I'll bring that up on it. That they sodomized him before they killed him. They sodomized him. Again,
Hillary did this. He was going to a spot.
Yeah, she was the one who was laughing on television.
He was going to a location designated by the Department of State when she was the Secretary of State to give himself up to surrender under a white flag. And she had the convoy interdicted and he was brutally murdered and sodomized with a bayonet. Yes. Wasn't pretty. He was a great man.
So, well, why does American leaders think that they have impunity to do whatever they want without any blowback or consequences, and they can go and murder and blow up countries and dissolve countries and kill off leaders and destroy institutions? They don't think it's coming back. Don't you think that this environment that we're now living in America, in the Western world, is a direct result of the policies implemented like that?
Yeah, sure, but as long as you control the voting machines, if you can control the outcome of the election, nobody can do anything about it. That's why they've acted with impunity. They have been immune from political consequence. All they care about is power. So we'll see if we have an honest, anything approximating an honest election on November 8th, the situation could change dramatically. But if it doesn't, we're going to continue on a downward spiral. I would predict food shortages, people starving, freezing, riots, food riots, gang warfare, uprising, bringing the military to shoot Americans. I mean, it's going to be really, really bad.
Wow. we're gonna close out the show, and we want to thank you for joining us. But I also want to say, remember, you still owe us the behind the scene thing on JFK and what really happened. So we got to schedule that so that you can give us the lowdown of that.
You got it. We're
That
coming up,
we
to
haven't.
the observance on the 22nd of November. Let's just plan something somewhere around there. I'd be delighted to come back.
Okay,
I
but
think you
that'll
guys are
work.
doing a great
Well,
job
I'll
of
hit
keeping
you up
us.
to thank you. Thank you so much. I'll hit you up tomorrow. I'll give you a message tomorrow, and then we can work something then.
Well,
Thank
I
you
thank
so
you
much,
both,
Jim. I'll talk to
Rashid.
you
I
later.
thank you both. I think this is an important program, and I'm very glad you've invited me on again.
Thank you so much. Hey, be blessed. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Again, we are going through a meltdown, a collapse, and everything. And so we're watching the time. We're watching everything in real time. We're watching the fall of America. It is not a pretty picture. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but this is what is going on, and it is the ramifications of imperial and colonialistic policies and the disregard of the livelihoods, the security, and the thoughts of other people. This is blowback. What do you say, Rashid?
Same thing. It's what your own hands have brought is what you reap and what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
You are not the exceptional nation. You're just like everybody else. When you put out evil, evil come back to you, right?
And it's
And
coming
this is
back.
what happened with America. She put out evil for what they say for as long as she's been a country, all but 9 years she's been in war, and now it's coming back.
So, and again, for those of
What
you
your own hands have brought, gone.
and for those of you who are listening to us and who will listen to us, remember that this was an on the spot show. I got a contact from him, and he and I talked, and he had his message that he wanted to relay to you because he trusts this platform for truth, this platform to give out unadulterated truth. So he wanted to come on the show because he said we're not biased and we'll allow even different opinions to emerge. Even if we don't agree with said different opinions from time to time, we still allow that to happen. And he trusted that. So he wanted to get on the show to give his opinion. And we thank him for that. And we thank him for the compliments about this. So for those of you who are listening, listen, tell others of the site, tell others of the show, spread the word, share the video, share all the videos, go back through the archives. You'll learn something. Remember to check out the show tomorrow, part 2 of the interview with co-founder of Scholars for 911 Truth, Professor Kevin Barrett. It'll be airing tomorrow. So you guys got to check that out. If you like to donate, the stuff is up on the screen. Otherwise, Rashid, before we go out, what's your closing statements?
Keep your eyes on the news. Watch as well as pray.
All right. With that said, always remember to be right, to be true, to have love in your heart, and always to strive to be upright, especially in this downtrodden world. You've got to strive to be upright. You've got to have more than 50% evil up in you. The good has to outweigh the evil up in you to make it through all of this. On that note, I love you all. We love you all. Thank you for giving us a moment of your time, because time is something that you can never get back. That's why we treasure it, and we try to give you something in return for your time. We give you the truth, the unadulterated truth. So we go out the same way we came in, with love and truth, peace and happiness. Mama, I love you. Peace.